Cylinders are one of the three basic shapes. The other two are bowls and plates, but cylinders is probably the most basic shape. So I'm going to put the clay on top of the wheel. Make sure your wheel is clean and dry. You don't want any water between the wheel and the clay. We're going to put some water on top of the clay and then center. So if you remember about centering, we push down and we bring it up. And the goal is that the clay doesn't look like it's moving. So if I put my finger up against the clay, it should hit evenly all the way around, still a little bit off. So, a cylinder starts with the clay looking like a birthday cake. The sides should be straight and the top should be flat. And now I'm going to take my thumbs and put my thumbs right down into the middle. I keep them together, my knuckles should be touching, and I go down to about 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch from the bottom. And I can tell if that's correct by taking my pin tool and sticking it into the clay on the bottom. And then I put my finger right down there so it touches the bottom of the clay. And we've got just about 3/4 of an inch. So you'll get to the point where it just becomes second nature how far to go. Now I'm going to keep my hands just where they are without moving them, and then I take my thumbs and keeping the tips right down on the bottom, I spread my thumbs wider. I'm going to take my sponge and clean up the bottom. I don't want a little hump in the middle. I want it to be nice and flat. So the goal is to have a corner right here on the inside that is a 90-degree angle. So the wall should be perpendicular to the bottom. So now that I've got this short, fat wall, I'm going to bring it up taller so it gets thinner and taller. So I'm going to grab the clay with my left hand at 4 o'clock. So if this were the face of a clock, that would be 12, 6, and 4 would be over here. And that's because the clay is coming at you and then going this way. So it's sort of a neutral spot, and you meet the least resistance to the wheel there. So I'm going to grab the clay with my left hand like I'm going to pinch it, and then I take my right hand and I do this, and I lay my right thumb on top of my left thumb, and I put my fingers underneath so that I can push this way with both hands. So I've really got a unit of 2 hands working as one. And I've got my elbows braced against my legs. So I push in on the inside and I push in on the outside, and now I slowly come up the side. And what I want to do is sort of pull toward me as I'm coming up. And as you pull toward you, the clay is pulling you away from where you're trying to stay, and so you stay in one place. You don't want to let your hands get pulled this way. If you do, the action of the wheel will make the clay spread out too much. So I get right down in here and I push hard with my middle finger works in the middle, and then I come up the sides. So you want your clay to either be coming straight up or pointing in. And at the very top, at the end of each pull, you want to grab a hold of the clay like you're going to pinch it, and then press down with your index finger so that you kind of get it back on track if it's gotten a little wonky. So you can, if something happens at the top and it gets messed up, you can take your pin tool and you hold it right in front of you, and you pinch it again, and you hold your pin tool really steady and lean your fingers together, and then scribe a line all the way around and then go all the way through. And then you get a nice straight top again. So when you've got this as tall as you can make it, we're going to take the wooden tool and we're going to lay it right down alongside the pot. Now I'm holding it like a pencil. It's resting on my middle finger and my index fingers on the top. And I lay the tool flat against the side and cut down into the clay. And that releases the extra clay at the bottom so that you have less to trim. So I'm going to lay this flat again, just enough to loosen it, and then I peel off this extra bit of clay. So I'm not going to keep this. I'm going to show you what it should look like on the inside. So I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to cut straight down. I'm going to put a little water on here so we can make it move. Okay, so you can see what the inside should look like. It has a pretty straight wall, pretty even. It should taper a little bit toward the top and be a little thicker at the bottom. And then here, where they join together, should be a 90-degree angle, and the bottom should be completely flat. So that's a cylinder.